What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at The Distance. Got a video for you guys. This one's going to be a prediction for the upcoming bout between Toney and Denis Lebedev. Bout takes place on November the 5th in Russia. Puts together cruiserweight contender Denis Lebedev and veteran Toney. Pretty much what a lot of people are emphasizing on at the moment is Toney's weight, which has fluctuated over the last couple of years, which has been kind of up and down. His last fight, he didn't look good at all. He was about, I think he was 257 pounds for that fight, and was probably even higher, following the fight. But it seems as if he slimmed down. He slimmed down, and he's probably about 200 pounds, maybe even less than that at this moment. But a lot of people are saying, at his age, he shouldn't be, losing that much weight. But he lost, but the weight that he was losing, as you could see, he had a lot of, fat around his stomach and on his arms. So pretty much, I think that he did lose fat, and I think that compared to a lot of fighters who lose muscle at this age and go down a significant amount of weight, I think it's a big difference. And Toney is a bit older. He's 42 years old. But also, I just don't think that losing as much fat as he had, I don't think it's going to affect him all that much. So, breaking down this fight, pretty much it's a bit tough because you have a fighter like Toney, even though in a few fights he's been well above his weight, because I'm one of those people that think he shouldn't really be much past 200 pounds, maybe 205, if he was gonna fight at heavyweight, but he's been up at 232, 225, 220. I think he was down to 218 when he fought a couple years ago. 240. He's been at these weights and he's done well, because something that even though he's not as sharp from time to time at the 230 pound 230 pound weight, he still maintains that level of skill. He still he, like I said, doesn't have his reflexes, but he's still sharp. He knows how to position his body to where it's hard to land on him, but easy for him to land on you. He's a smart fighter. I think that Toney does display an art to boxing that we may never see ever again. He's, like I said, 42 years old. He could still fight and could possibly compete in a cruiserweight division, especially against the style of a Denis Lebedev. Denis Lebedev is coming off a victory over Roy Jones Jr. I believe they said one judge had the fight for Roy Jones. It was a brutal knockout at the end. But we all know Denis Lebedev. I mean, if you haven't heard of Denis Lebedev, he's a cruiserweight fighter. He stands straight up. He's a southpaw. Southpaw has a lot of power with his left hand. He's very dependent on his jab, and usually follows it up with a left hand. And he has tremendous power with that left hand. So coming into this fight, Denis Lebedev is in for a rude awakening. Possibly because Toney is a fighter that can take the jab away by using subtle movement with his upper body. He can roll the jab and counter it. And also, Denis Lebedev is a sucker for the right hand. It's bad enough not even a straight right hand. You can land the right jab on him. You can land a southpaw jab on him, and he doesn't really make the adjustment to block himself from the jab. Toney is the master of throwing the quick overhand right, quick counter overhand right. He's the master of throwing that. He can still throw it. Even if he's not as quick as he used to be, he still knows how to find a way to land it. And Denis Lebedev is a fighter that doesn't see when it's coming. So in this fight, Toney is going to have to create an opening for the right hand counter over the top of Lebedev's jab. Toney also, when he's kind of ducking, because he does roll his shoulders, moves his head, and makes it hard for an opponent to land on, because they have to lunge down. They have to lunge down to try to throw at him. And when he lunges down, and and he's not landing. He needs to go for the left hook to the body because he does throw a good left hook to the body near the solar plexus. Especially when he's coming forward or when you got him at the center of the ring, and you probably miss probably a left hook, and he just comes back with the left hook to the body. And as mentioned, he's hard to hit. So I think in this fight, he needs to create very awkward angles. He needs to create kind of an awkward space to where Lebedev is going to have to try to cut off those angles that James Toney creates. And if he can create the awkward angles that James Toney creates, then if he can he can create awkward angles, then more than likely he can actually beat Lebedev. This is a winnable fight for James Toney just based on skill. I think his skill level is superior to Denis Lebedev because I think there's a lot more dimensions to his game, and Denis Lebedev has shown problems with fighters that do throw the right hand. So Denis Lebedev in this fight has to swarm in spurts. He's going to have to throw more punches. He's going to have to come back outside. And when James Toney ducks down, he's going to have to throw probably an overhand left and come right back out as soon as he can. This is a fight to where he doesn't want to stand in front of James Toney the entire fight, because if he stands in front of James Toney, then James Toney could counter the hell out of him. So this is a fight to where Denis Lebedev is going to have to come in spurts, use his jab, and try to look for the left hook over the top. James Toney, left hook could land over the top against James Toney, but he's not going to feel the full effect of it because he rolls his shoulders and tucks his chin to where the punch won't have as much of an effect on him. But I just think that this is a fight to where he wants to swarm James Toney and also try to utilize some lateral movement. He doesn't have the best lateral movement. He does cut off the ring. But this is against opponents that really don't counter him. But in this fight, I just think that Lebedev doesn't want to emphasize on the knockout. He wants to emphasize on winning rounds in this fight. And the way to win rounds against James Toney definitely is to try to swarm him in spurts. Swarm him, come back out, swarm him again, because we're going to have this fight in Russia. So being in Russia, it's going to look better to the fans, because the fans are going to react more to Denis Lebedev's spurts than James Toney, landing clean punches on him. And this is going to affect my decision, predicting this fight. As much as I like James Toney, I think that at 200 pounds at cruiserweight, I think he'll be much sharper than he was in his last fight. I think he'll be sharper. I think that he does have a style to where he makes it difficult for any opponent that he faces. And if you're going to beat James Toney, you're not going to look good beating James Toney. Just with that style to where he rolls his shoulders and it's hard to hit him, but it's easy for him to hit you. So I'm going to go with Denis Lebedev winning this fight, but this fight possibly has controversy written all over it. I think it's probably going to be a close fight. And even with it being a close fight, I think Denis Lebedev will get the decision, with James Toney giving a tough fight. And I'm one of those people that believes that if James Toney wants to win this fight, he's going to have to knock him out. And he's going to have to fight with a lot of urgency late. But, I just think that the judge is going to give it to Denis Lebedev. But also I think that James Toney more than likely could win this fight. So I'm swaying both ways here because, this being pretty much a hometown fight, there could be possible controversy. But also this year, we saw Antonio Tarver go to Australia and knock out Danny Green, of course. We saw Bernard Hopkins defeat Jean Pascal. We saw Grady Brewer defeat Fernando Guerrero. Marco Antonio Rubio defeat David Lemieux. So we've had a good year where veterans have won good fights. And I think James Toney can pull it off, but if it goes to the cards, I see Lebedev getting it. So anyway, peeps, I'm out of here. That was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.